We have XRP activation taking place right now, and we're talking about amendments that are being passed and features brought live to the XRP ledger that not only opens up DeFi for regular Joe Blows like me, but more importantly, opens up the floodgates of institutional liquidity and institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger. We're going to break it down in today's update. Market did crash for Bitcoin, gold, silver, and even the stock market got hit up pretty bad. I don't know, maybe crash is a little dramatic, but big pullbacks this morning. And we're going to break down why that took place. If you appreciate our updates on a daily basis, please make sure you have subscribed, hit that notification bell. And if you could help us out, either like the video or don't like the video, maybe share it out with a friend. We do appreciate that. So the reason why we got smacked up in the stock market, Bitcoin, and gold and silver is because Russia is considering moving back to the US dollar as part of a wide-ranging economic partnership with President Trump per Bloomberg. This partnership would include US and Russia working together on fossil fuels, joint investments in natural gas, offshore oil, and critical raw material partnerships, windfalls for US companies, Russia's return to the US dollar settlement system. And the question I have for you guys is this the end of BRICS? Now, I have a whole playlist on my YouTube, actually, BRICS Loves XRP, where I break down how so many of these countries that were part of BRICS or were thinking about joining BRICS actually love XRP, have piloted and tested XRP. Big banks and institutions within those countries are already live with XRP and on-demand liquidity. And so I made a whole playlist, BRICS Loves XRP. But I've been saying this whole time, I'm not so worried so much about what BRICS is or isn't going to do. I just know what assets back and run the new system and which commodities run the world. And so if you want to invest in the future, in the new system, whether that involves BRICS or not, you own gold and silver. And we also need a neutral bridge currency, and that would be XRP. The commodities that run the world, natural gas, fossil fuels, etc., there's a play to be had there as well. But that is why we got smacked up today. $3.6 trillion wiped out in about 90 minutes. Gold down 3.76%. About 1.34 trillion wiped out from its market cap. 8.5% dump for silver, erasing 400 billion. And the S&P 500 fell 1%, erasing 620 billion. NASDAQ 1.6%, wiping out 600 billion. And crypto dumped 3%, wiping out 70 billion as well. Taking a look at the chart, though, it's interesting. Bitcoin was trading up at about 68,300 and did get brought back down to about 65.2. So we did see a drawdown in Bitcoin, but the drawdown in XRP actually wasn't that much. We were up at $1.40, and we did come down to about $1.35, but that didn't last long. And XRP seems to be holding up fairly well. I also want to note that we are seeing some reports that Coinbase wasn't allowing trading, deposits, and withdrawals. We've seen some issues here with these exchanges and platforms, and I just want to make sure that you guys have a few options. Make sure you guys stay safe. I'm not going to tell you what platforms to use. I have some resources linked up down below and at my website, zachrector.com. But just, I always say, I never keep all of my eggs in one basket, and I give myself multiple options. So that's it. I'm not going to shill anything other than give yourself a few options. And don't be scared. When we see crypto fear and greed index dropping down to 5 into extreme fear, for me, it just shows that retail is so disassociated from the fundamentals and is so beaten up by the economy and the inflation that's taking place that you get down to these points in the bear market where it seems like there's, all hope is lost, which is typically the best times to buy. I understand people are tapped out. I don't have a bunch of extra money to be throwing around right now either. I get it. I feel it. I'm right there with you guys. But if you do have it, well, and as we see from the institutions, they're loading up. And I don't want the institutions to be the only one loading up at these prices below fundamental value. So hopefully you are able to pick some up yourself. I've noted that I have a buy order for XRP at $1.07, $1.07. I'm going to be front running that $1 level just to be transparent with you guys. And I'm just trying to show that, not to say, oh, I got a bunch of money, I can throw it around. That's not the case. I have a little bit of money that I am going to allocate if we do get down to that $1.07 is where I have my order placed. I'm going to front run $1. I'm not going to get too greedy. And I only share that with you guys to be transparent, to show you that I still have conviction. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care what the fear and greed index is doing. In fact, to me, it's a buy indicator when it's down this low. And when the institutions are loading up at the level that we're seeing from Goldman Sachs, it gets me excited. I did a whole video on this a couple days ago, but Evernorth pointed out an interesting data point here. So far, the $152 million of XRP ETF exposure that Goldman Sachs has was about 14% of the net XRP ETF inflows last year. So just one firm, Goldman Sachs, 14% of the net inflows into the ETFs last year was from them. What gets you even more excited is when you realize that they're not even at 0.5% allocation to XRP. At the 2 point something billion of crypto exposure that they have to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP is a fraction of their total AUM, and the specific XRP allocation that they have broken up between 4 XRP ETFs. I have my sticky note right here, and you guys can go check out that video. 4 ETFs, bringing them to 152 million of exposure. It's only 0.33% of their total AUM. It's nothing. This is just getting started. And to remind everybody, all of these XRP spot ETFs are backed by real XRP. So if you think that it has no impact on price, you would be correct because it's being bought OTC. But if it has no impact on the supply shock equation, you would be mistaken. It absolutely does, right? It's just not impacting or pumping XRP now because all of this is being bought OTC. Eventually, will the OTC pools dry up? Eventually, will they have to come to the secondary market? Eventually, will we have a supply shock? I think you guys know how I feel. I'm interested to hear from you guys in the comments down below. When I title this update XRP Activation, though, this is what I'm talking about right here. ROUSD, the ROUSD that's on the XRP ledger, is now launched and fully available on Binance, the world's largest exchange. Why is this important to XRP? Why would I say XRP Activation? Because no big exchanges were supporting the XRP ledger up until now. Ripple just opened the door. They busted down the door. And what this means is that not just ROUSD, but any token on the XRP ledger can now be launched and issued and available on big centralized exchanges like Binance or others. So Binance is just the first one. We need to see more centralized exchanges bringing ROUSD on the XRP ledger onto their platform, but that's going to open up the floodgates for all of the tokenized assets that are going to be on the XRP ledger. Now, we already have a bunch. We have meme coins on the XRP ledger. We have NFTs on the XRP ledger. There's been some efforts to tokenize gold, silver, real estate, equity, and some other stuff on the XRP ledger. And I anticipate this to explode once the Clarity Act gets signed. But in the meantime, we want that door open. And that door is now open with ROUSD on the XRP ledger available on Binance. It's not just good news for Ripple. It's not just good news for ROUSD. It's fantastic news for the entire XRP ledger ecosystem, and you need to understand that. It's very important. Okay? As we get tokenized real estate, equity, bond, etc. on the XRP ledger, we want those tokens to be available, of course, on the XRP ledger DEX. And I'm about to talk about the permission DEX that's about to go live, but we also want them available on the centralized exchanges as well. I wanted to share this quick comment from David Schwartz on XRP Ledger Quantum Resistance. This is from 2022, where he says, XRPL is not quantum resistant yet. It could be made so, but with present mechanisms we have, the result would kind of suck because the quantum resistant algorithms we know all have painful disadvantages in blockchain applications. My current thinking is that we monitor the state of the art carefully and implement the best quantum resistant algorithms whenever the risk looks to be within 5 years of materializing. I don't think that we're there yet. Now, this is what I want to show though. Cold wallets that hold only XRP and have never performed a transaction are already quantum resistant. Also, if you disable the master key and set a new regular key, your account is quantum resistant until you perform another transaction, and then you can change it again. Oh, and one last thing, unlike some blockchains, once quantum resistant algorithms are deployed, XRP Ledger users will not need a new receiving address to take advantage of them. Existing accounts can be resecured. So yeah, we're not fully quantum resistant yet, but if you have XRP in a cold storage and you haven't done any transactions, you're quantum resistant. And when we do upgrade, it looks like the XRP Ledger is very well positioned and ready to upgrade to quantum resistant, unlike Bitcoin, which we just got a comment, another tweet. I don't have it pulled up, but David Schwartz did say last night that for Bitcoin to become quantum resistant, it is going to have to fork again. So Not trying to spread FUD, just acknowledging the technical limitations that Bitcoin has compared to XRP Ledger and others. Now, speaking of capabilities, massive permission DEX. Now, permission domains and permission DEX, it's the 1-2 punch. And this is building on top of the native decentralized exchange that's built into the XRP Ledger. But what this does is allows institutions to come in a regulatory compliant way and not have to worry about, being in a liquidity pool or trading with a bad actor. We couldn't have it. We can't have banks and institutions on the XRP Ledger at scale until this gets done. And it's happening now. Okay? So let's break this down, guys. We're looking at this article that was put out by Antonio Kaplan. He is a Ripple X developer. Permission DEX, building the next layer of liquidity on the XRP Ledger. Okay? So for those of you guys who don't know, since 2012, the built-in decentralized exchange, or DEX, has processed trades continuously, proving that low-cost on-ledger markets can operate at scale. Over time, features like AMMs and multi-purpose tokens have expanded its toolkit, opening new possibilities without sacrificing efficiency or decentralization. Now, the next major evolution is here, the permissioned DEX. This is massive. By integrating permissioning features directly into the DEX protocol, regulated financial institutions can participate in the XRP Ledger's DEX while still adhering to their compliance requirements. This approach avoids the drawbacks of isolated permission tokens or private blockchains, ensuring a vibrant liquid marketplace that facilitates seamless arbitrage. Ultimately, this permission DEX system paves the way for wider institutional adoption of XRP Ledger, fostering a more accessible and efficient financial landscape. The open DEX isn't going anywhere. It will continue to function exactly as it does today, enabling anyone to place and fill orders. Permission DEX builds alongside it, giving developers and institutions an option to create permissioned order books tied to verified credentials. This is key to unlocking real-world financial flows. Most regulated institutions can't engage on open systems without counterparties being verified. By enabling credential-gated liquidity on the same ledger as open markets, XRP Ledger becomes far more suitable for institutional-grade payments, FX, and settlement use cases. So I want to show you, we got credentials, which is one amendment that's passed. Permission domains is passed and activated. Permission DEX is about to go live. Okay, it's already got enough votes. It's about to go live here shortly, I believe. Okay, real-world applications would be foreign exchange, B2B, and treasury payments, and stablecoin issuers. Also, going back to tokens on the XRP Ledger, right? That would be another use case for this as well. Though, say an institution wants to tokenize treasury funds or private equity or real estate, whatever, on the XRP Ledger, and they want to make it tradable within the permission DEX, here you go, right? And we need more legitimate issuers on the XRP Ledger. We can't just rely completely on Ripple. We can't just rely on First Ledger made memes possible on the XRP Ledger. That's not what takes XRP to the prices that you all want to talk about and want to, that I want to talk about as well too, by the way. I want to talk about XRP to 100. I want to talk about XRP to 1,000. This is what we need to make that possible, right? We need more legitimate issuers bringing great assets on the XRP Ledger, and the liquidity and the trading of these assets to build up demand for XRP on the XRP Ledger. That's where it comes from. It's not just about tokenizing $1 trillion worth of debt on the XRP Ledger. That's not going to move XRP. What moves XRP is the trading of that asset on the XRP Ledger. Burning XRP, locking XRP up in wallets, and driving more demand for XRP and the use of XRP in the auto bridging mechanism that's built into the decentralized exchange. Now, we're so far ahead of many blockchains in this regard, but this really completes the picture. Transparent pricing, capital efficiency, risk mitigation, native compliance. How does Ripple plan to use it? The permission DEX provides a compliance-focused on-ledger marketplace for FX and liquidity, enabling institutions to route payments efficiently across currencies. By combining shared liquidity with policy enforcement, it delivers low-cost, instant local payout and reduced settlement risk. Ripple plans to utilize permission DEX as an on-ledger mechanism for asset conversion within payment and treasury workflows, including cross-border payments, B2B transfers, and stablecoin-based settlement. At a high level, Ripple routes the conversion step of these flows through a permissioned order book where only verified liquidity providers can participate. Depending on available liquidity and pricing, conversions may execute directly between assets or route across intermediate pairs, settling atomically on the XRP ledger. For example, in a USD Colombia corridor, a payment funded in RLUSD can convert on ledger into a COP denominated asset, that would be Colombian, denominated asset via permission liquidity, after which the payout partner redeems locally through existing rails. If the pricing were more favorable via an alternative trading route, that path would be executed instead. This is where we see Ripple bringing their on-demand liquidity, their B2B payment flows, their stablecoin flows, their FX corridors. These fiat rails that otherwise would be off-chain get brought on-chain and onto the XRP ledger with stablecoins like RLUSD, Colombian peso, or other currencies being brought on, stablecoin, CBDC, etc. And then the trading between those assets takes place within the permission DEX in a compliant way. This is how you bring banks and institutions, not just in the United States, but across the world on chain. Not taking place in centralized exchanges, not taking place in private ledgers, private networks, or anything like that. On the XRP ledger, but just in a permission DEX, a credential gated environment. This is what when we talk about flipping a switch, this is a massive switch that's getting flipped for the XRP ledger, and folks really need to understand it. You got XRP trading below $1.50 right now, far below its fundamental value. And you can look at the fundamental picture. We do it every single day, and yet people still don't get it. Because price is down, Zach. I'm unhappy. I'm down on my investment. If you ignore these fundamentals, you won't understand why we're holding this asset and why we're still buying this asset at these current prices. But for many of you that join me in this journey and are right here on this channel with me, you understand it, you get it, and you're seeing all of the building blocks and the infrastructure being built out in front of us, which leads us to being so strong in our conviction, so strong in our thesis for why XRP is going to be the biggest and best liquidity ledger in the world. The neutral bridge currency for that ledger is XRP. And as Ripple reminded us in the community day yesterday, everything that Ripple does brings back value to XRP. XRP is the North Star for Ripple. XRP is the heartbeat of Ripple. I don't know how many different ways Ripple can say it. People still get confused. They can't make it any more clear. Now, if you appreciate what we're doing, please help us out by liking this video, sharing it out far and wide. All of our community resources are at zachrector.com. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.